Ready? Not coming to you live tonight. This is a pre-recorded video. This is Candy, and I'm out of my craft room tonight, so I wanted to go ahead and make a card for you. I'm kind of getting ready for some Christmas. I still like Halloween. Still want to make Halloween cards, but moving on to Christmas. I am going to use one of our washi maps. This is washi map 4. I also have the Peppermint Patterns washi sheet. I have some Scarlet cardstock. Any red cardstock would work. This is just what I still have in my stash. I'm going to use the Flurry of Joy stamp set and the Up on the Rooftop stamp set. I will link everything down below. All of this was still in stock, or most of it is still in stock. I don't know if the red paper is, but you can use any red paper. They will be affiliate links, which just means I get a small kickback if you place an order using one of my links. I also am going to use this old Spellbinders die. I've got the smallest little die here for my sentiment. I've got some Bee Sting Stellar ink. Tonight, I'm going to use my VersaFine Claire Nocturne ink instead of my my Raven Detail ink, because I'm going to need to stamp multiple times, and I need that to stamp and stay wet longer than I would be able to with my normally when I do use my Raven ink. And some icicle embossing powder. I have used this to heat emboss before, but for tonight's purposes, I don't know if I'll have just enough time because of the number of, you'll understand when we get there. So I'm going to go ahead and show you what we're going to do. I did make a sample. I'll show you at the end because I used a different washi map. And just it's kind of the same thing, but it will be a little bit different. So I'm going to go ahead and you could do this with any of the washi maps or just paper in general. I love the washi maps because it has this light gray that you can use to put straight lines, because I'm horrible at that. All I'm going to do is set this in my trimmer and cut it down in half at 5.5. And then all I need to do is turn it and put it to 4 1/4. So you get 4 in each pack. Or you get 2 pieces of paper, but there's 4 on each pages, which would give you 4 card fronts. So I have that. I'm kind of got a bunch of mess here. I'm going to cut it down, but I'm going to use my washi tape first. So I'm going to go ahead and start with my big sheets here. And all you have to do is, like I said, you just put it down. I still don't always make it straight, but I do my best. I try not to push too hard, and I try to be very careful as I go so that I make sure I'm lining it up before I push it down all the way. And all I'm going to do is cut it off a little bit, and then because of this one is like this, I'm going to cut it off that way and then fold it over. I am going to cut a little bit off each side, so I'm not going to worry about that. This piece I'm going to throw away. This piece I will go ahead and use, and I'm just going to find a spot that it will work the best for, where I can use up the most of it. So I'm just going to go ahead and put that down. We're going to continue to do this and fill up our card panel using our washi sheets. Just going to continue to take the strips. You could also use pattern paper. See, now here's one where I didn't quite get it lined up. So if I don't push it down real hard, I can move it over a little bit. But the lines are so faint, you would never see it. Like I said, we're going to cut off a little bit off each edge, so it's not going to matter too much about the point, for me anyway. And then I just continue to use them, and I try to use up the long pieces wherever I can first. And see, that one now isn't going to quite fit the edge, so I can't use that one there, but I can use it here. And I don't worry too much about if I didn't cut a straight line when I cut it here, because I'm just gonna, I flip it around the next time. Now this piece might work right here. And we'll just put that in there like that to finish the pattern. I've got some smaller pieces here from a previous card. I'm just gonna go ahead and see if I can use some of them up and put those down. Now, this piece again is one of those that I can cut a little bit off, and I can just use that little bit of that pattern over here on this side. Fold it over. I like to fold them over because nobody's going to see the back, and I know they're nice. Even though I'm going to cut some of it off, I know that some of it, it's gonna hold. And there are all sorts of different washi sheets. There's Christmas, there's holiday, there's flowers, there's, you know, writing. We've got all sorts of different ones that you can use for almost any occasion, and we have them coming out all the time. So they're a great price point. Now this piece right here, I probably will throw. Right now I'm just going to stick it on my little sheet because I'm going to just try to use up whatever I have here. See here, I can see there's a rounded corner and these are sharp corners. So this is an actual end, not a piece I cut off. So that means I can go ahead and put this in here. Once again, I can cut it and I can see it won't probably, well, I could probably use this one here because I'm going to cut off just enough off the top that you're not going to see that. But instead, I'm just going to go ahead and save it because I may have another time when I need it. If my sheet ends up being used up, then I don't worry about it too much. Oops. Peel that off a little bit because I stuck it over another part of the label. But I do have a very quick and easy card I can show you at the end, which is such a fun and easy card to make with these washi sheets. Or if you have some washi tape too, works. But I love the you know, because if you, let's say you had some red washi tape, you could use that over, you know, or some silver, you could use those over the tops of these to add some extra or in between the lines. I think that would be fun as well. And this one I'm going to try to snip as straight as I can so that I have this extra piece here for another time. And then I think this one kind of looks similar to this one, so I'm going to go ahead and grab this one. That way they're not too close to each other with that same pattern. And then snip that off. Like that. Stick that down. And I'll go ahead and fold that over. Okay, and it's not perfect, but that's okay because we're going to cut it down, like I said. All right, now that I've got that down, I'm going to go ahead and cut this down. And what I'm going to do is this one isn't as important as some of these that have the edges. You may have to cut a little off each side. This one has one big pattern. So I'm going to go ahead and cut off, for the most part, I just cut off a little bit off each side and trim it down to 4 and 5 1/4. And that just will clean up all my edges. 4 and then 5 1/4. And I've got this beautiful, I mean, look at how fun this is. It's great. It's perfect. Now we're going to judge it up a little bit. There are a couple ways you could do that. You could literally just take some sort of matted piece, stamp it down. I'm going to show, like, for example, could die cut it out, stick it on top, you know, and go with it. But what I am going to do, and I've already done this once, I am going to go ahead and I've got that up in the house top, up on the rooftop stamp in here. I go ahead and stick this down. I've already got it pre-done and ready, and I'm going to flip this over because I can see that little bit of that 4 right through it because this is a white washi. I'm okay with that because we're going to cover that up. We're going to go ahead and stamp down right on top of this. So I'm going to grab my anti-static powder tool and just really cover that good. And then this is where I'm, like I said, I'm using the VersaFine Clair because I may have to stamp a few times because there's ridges in here. Oops, and I just touched that with my finger. So let's make sure there's no powders. I'm gonna go ahead. I'm actually gonna have to stand up to do this. It's a little easier because you need to have some amount of pressure. You can do this, you just need to make sure you have a little bit of a juicier ink pad. If you have a drier ink pad, it will take a lot more stampings. If you're using a pigment ink pad, you know, an oxide, and you could do this with like the red brick oxide. I'm sure I could have done this with that Bee Sting ink, but I wanted the black. I really liked the press of it. And I know I'm shaking my camera a little bit. I apologize for that. When I have to press down like this. And the reason I'm pressing so hard is because I'm trying to get in those little crevices. And it's not going to fill in everywhere because not all of the crevices have part of the stamp image. But one thing I've also learned is that I can take my Misty, hold it, and flip it upside down. And I have a little bit, because of this kind of foam pad on the back, a little bit of extra give that I can kind of press a little bit, and I feel like that helps with that. But like I said, it's not super important. You know, you get the gist. Okay, now my stamp moved just a hair, so let's get it moved back. I hope I didn't get it all ruined. Okay, it'll work. It did move just a hair, but it kind of gives it a little bit of that whimsy look. You're still going to get the idea. All right, so now I'm going to go ahead and grab my icicle embossing powder. Now you could use any embossing powder you wanted. You could use embossing ink and do gold or silver or red or green, which would make it pop. I just like I said, the black. I'm going to cover this up and move this off to the side a little bit. I have my regular Misty as well here. And I'm going to go ahead and I have just a small piece of that red cardstock. And I'm just going to kind of put it off to the side here a little bit. Anti-static powder tool. Move this up a little bit so you can kind of see. You can see. I'm going to stamp it with the same ink since I'm already using it because it's out. And then I'm going to go ahead and put my icicle embossing powder on that as well. And then we're going to heat set these. So let's turn our heat gun on, warm it up a little bit for a few seconds, and then I'll go ahead. I'm going to do my sentiment first because there's not a lot of area. Just makes it nice and shiny. I'm going to go ahead and heat emboss my image. Like I said, I moved it just a little bit, so it isn't the perfect image, but it's not horrible. Especially since I have that washi behind it. Now you're going to get different looks to the ink because there's different, what do you want to call it? There's different gaps and there's different colors. There's darker reds and lighter reds. But to add a little bit of extra fun to this, let me wipe my desk off here because I got a little extra powder. We're going to add a little depth. We're going to add some of this Bee Sting ink. And I'm just going to go ahead and take a blending brush here. And I'm just kind of cooling, seeing if it's cool. And I'm just going to go around the edges and just deepen the edges up, which kind of gives it a little bit more. You could do a brown if you really wanted to, or do like a brown ink with your stamp and heat emboss it, like Vintage Photo or something like that. Or Weeping Willow is and Gur are a couple of my favorite Simon Hurley inks. And if you heat emboss that, and then you'd kind of give it more of a vintage look. But with the white, I wanted to kind of keep the white instead of the brown and like creams. Okay, so we just kind of did that. I do already have my panel cut down, my red card panel. So I'm gonna go ahead and stick that down. This is a fairly simple card. You could do this with any kind of image, or like I said, you could stamp out an image like a wreath on a circle die cut and just put it on the card with a sentiment strip. And you basically kind of got like your own pattern paper with these washi maps and washi sheets. So I've got that. Go ahead, we're gonna, I had a card base sitting here. Where did I put it off to? Card base, card base, card base. Just grab another one. This is one of our Perfect Blend A2 card bases. I like to kind of line it up, make sure I folded it correctly, because sometimes I fold off just a hair because I'm rushing it and not paying attention. All right, add our card base here. And then all we really need is a sentiment. And I wanted to go with just a C. You can see it's just a little bit off. So what I do is I just open it up and line it up in my in my cutter. I'm gonna line it up at the 5.5, and we're just gonna trim it down. And it trims off that edge, and now we've got a perfect little card base. If you're off a little bit, it's okay. It's homemade. It is homemade. Now that this is cool, I'm going to go ahead and take my cloth. Sometimes I forget to do this. And wipe off that extra anti-static powder tool. And then here's that little Spellbinders. Like I said, this is an old kind of label die. I've been kind of loving these older dies. I've had these forever. I mean, I've had this die probably for 15 years. And I've been kind of pulling them out and using them a little bit more. What I'm going to do, we cut out the die, the sentiment. We're going to put that right there. But to add a little bit of fun, we're actually going to, I'm going to go ahead and cut out a couple more. So I'm just going to go ahead and snip this down like that, so I don't ruin my card, the rest of my cardstock. You could add some vellum behind here. If you have a little poinsettia leaf or a poinsettia flower, you could do that as an accent with this, you know, zhuzh it up a little bit, some pine needle, little pine needles, a little sprigs of something underneath your sentiment. You know, if you wanted a pop of color, you could add some green. Like I said, if you had some small pine or holly leaves, that would be a nice pop of color. I kind of stuck with this red and white theme, and all I'm going to do is stack these. So add a little liquid glue, and that's only because then you can move it around a little bit more to line it up. Because when you do something like this, you want to take your time and get it to line up. Because if it's off a little bit, it can make a difference and make a little bit of a sloppiness for your card. So do try to take your time. Now, do I always? No. Sometimes I find out I've got it put together and I didn't get it perfect. But I play with it and kind of squish it down and around. You could also just use some foam tape, but I do like to stack my dies, especially smaller dies, because I think that just gives it that little bit of funness, and it gives it that sturdiness and a little bit of the same color underneath. And then all I'm going to do to finish this off is add a few little dots, and I've got some flat back crystals. You could use sequins, you could any kind of gems, you could use Nouveau drops. I just happen to have these on my desk. And I'm going to just do 3. I hope I added enough glue. And I like to give myself just a couple of seconds, you know, to kind of move them around if I need to and line them up as best as I can, and then press them down. oops, move that away just a hair because there's a little bit too much glue there. I'm going to line it up, look at it. It looks okay. It's straight from here. All right, so here is our card we are making tonight, but I did show you, I wanted to tell you how you can make a very easy and simple card using these washi tapes. I see I'm a little bit off, but I'm okay with it. It's homemade. What we're gonna do is I'm just gonna use that. I'm gonna use actually a white piece of cardstock here. I'm gonna go ahead and cut this down to 4 by 5 1/4. You know me, that's one of my favorite measurements for mats. You could save these for sentiment strips if you want. I'm gonna throw them because I have tons of them. I'm gonna go ahead and grab, I have one full one of these left. And we're gonna line this up on my mat, and I am gonna actually put my magnet down to kind of hold it in place because this is important. You want it to be a straight. And I'm gonna go ahead and I'm just gonna use my grid to line this up across the bottom. I don't have a sentiment picked for this yet. This is just kind of as I was filming, a quick, fast card because this isn't a very long video tonight. And then I'm going to grab my scoreboard. And what I'm going to do, you can do it up higher and do it lower, but I'm going to go ahead and put it in here. And I'm going to flip it upside down. And I know that it kind of, it just happened to be, so I'm going to go right here at the half mark. It just kind of depends. I go up like one line and I'm going to do one score line. And then I'm going to go up one more line. So I'm at the half and then the 5/8, and I'm going to do one more score line. And then when I flip this over, look at that. You have that pretty littleness. Now we need sentiment. So I like to find a longer sentiment. So I'm just going to grab one here that's handy. I'm not sure what I've got here on my stash, you know, just what's right here in my, I'm going to go ahead and throw this in. And I've got the Christmas here. I've got, this is Winter Cottage. I don't even know if I've used this before. I do have the die too. And I do know, I looked to see if this was in stock. And I'm going to say, wishing you a Merry Christmas. And all we're going to do is I'm going to line it up. I'm going to use my little corner here to make sure it's straight. Excuse my head if I'm in the way. I'm going to pull it up a little bit more, and I'm going to I use this up against the edge, and I'm just going to pull it down. And because it's see-through, I could see that I left a little bit of white gap. And I can pick it up and take this out of the way. Now here is where you can choose to use a red ink. I'm going to go ahead and use that same VersaFine Clear ink for pop. And we're going to go ahead and add this. And I'm just going to walk my fingers because it is a sentiment. Stamp it twice. And because I haven't inked it up yet, its stamp needs to have a little bit extra. Okay. And then what we're gonna, I mean, look at how simple that was. I mean, it's very clean and simple. Now here, you could add more. You could add a poinsettia. You could, you know, ink blend a little bit. I'm gonna leave it pretty clean and simple, but I'm gonna do one more little fun trick to it. First thing we're gonna do is kind of heat set this because I do not want to smear this pigment in. And then what we're gonna do is, I don't know if I have a piece of paper handy, but I am gonna grab the fairy dust. It is a stunning embossing powder. Now, I think the embossing powder of the month would work very well with this yet, but I do not have it yet. It's on its way. I'm gonna grab my embossing ink. I am not going to use any anti-static powder tool. And we're just gonna press it down on the whole, we're covering this whole panel. Now, I could probably have spritzed this with some of my ornament gold, but we're gonna be so sparkly afterwards that I'm not gonna need that. I'm just, like I said, I'm just making sure it's very, very covered. Embossing ink won't set, so I'm going to quickly wipe up my I like to use a little alcohol ink on my glass mat. I love my squeaky clean, but for my glass mat, I try to use a little alcohol just because I get some of that ink up that I miss too. And then we're going to go ahead and we're just going to cover this. And we're going to cover the whole thing and just wait. And you could do this with any card panel. We could have done this with that card panel. You could take that stamp set I had and just stamp it down on some, you know, just stamp it with black ink on a red cardstock and heat emboss it. Ugh, I got embossing powder everywhere now. That's all right. Get my little Swiffer out and clean that up here after. All right, we're gonna heat set this. Wait to see this look like when it's melted. I have a lot of embossing powder on here, so it's kind of flying away a little bit. Your fingers. Okay, now I'm going to quickly turn this around so I can start going away from my fingers. Now this is clear. So it's clear and shimmery, so I'm gonna have to kind of tilt it in the light a little bit, but I will show you the shiny shimmeriness in just a minute. I just don't want to touch it while it's hot because I will leave a fingerprint. Okay. Are you ready? Hopefully you can see the shininess. Look at I mean, you can look at, see? Now, all you need to do, now you have two options here. You could put this on a white on white card base, which is stunning, or you could put it on a red card base or a red card panel. I'm gonna put it on the red. You could probably do black too, but I like the red, because I think the red pops. And actually you could do the red and you could trim it down so that you still have the white underneath. I'm not sure if I want to do that. I think I'm gonna put it on the red and then we might trim it down. But first we gotta wipe off all that extra embossing powder. That kind of flew off because I had so much on there. I didn't really shake it off. I probably could have. Just using a little Swiffer cloth. I usually clean up really well after I have a good embossing powder session. Move things off my desk because I have a bunch of embossing powder up there. So let's go ahead and add this to our card base. Now make sure that you want to make sure it's dry before, or not dry, but like cool to the touch before you kind of flip it over and touch it, because otherwise you can put fingerprints in it and that will mar the prettiness. Now I did miss a couple of spots with my glue, so I'm just gonna go ahead and add a little. And now something else you could do with this is put it on some of that ruby glitter stock underneath, and that would be beautiful too. I think we're gonna go ahead and try cutting it down. So I'm gonna, even though my card panel is already cut to an A2 card panel, I'm gonna go ahead and put it up at the top, and then I'll just trim off those little edges. I just eyeball it, and then I just kind of go in and eyeball it a little bit more. That looks, just want to make sure it's nice and square. There we go. So just a few slivers. And then when I go to put this on my card panel, it have that extra little white layer. And those kind of layering it and giving that matting layer and then showing the white also gives it a little bit more elegance, high-end feeling to it if you want. because it gives you that little bit extra. Now, my card panel, because I put that embossing powder on it, isn't quite white, but it works for me. You could do a couple layers of that, but I mean, if you could see this in person, the glitter on that is just stunning. Now, just to tie in a little bit more, I think what we're gonna do is I'm gonna use a little bit more glue, and I'm gonna go ahead and I'm just gonna put 3 dots right here, and grab a few of my crystals, flat back crystals we used on our last card, and stick those down. So I hope you enjoyed these projects tonight. Next week I will be back with you live. Hopefully using some, I'll either be making some more Christmas cards, or if I get my post office delivers my projects in time, my product in time, we'll use some of the new release. But I hope that you enjoyed these cards. Please give me a thumbs up if you like. Helps with the algorithm and bring content to you. You can subscribe to my channel at Sugar Cards by Candi V. I will also link that down below in the description box. Follow me on Instagram, Sugar Cards. I appreciate y'all so much. Have a great night. And I wanted to show you that. Putting both those cards in. And have a great night and a great weekend. And I will see you next week. Okay, bye now.